Alright, gonna do a super short, kind of unscripted video about an interesting concept in Goron Missiling. So, if you know about Goron Missiling, you know that it's supposed to be done either on a slope or off of a ledge, and that's because when you try to Goron Missile on flat ground like this, you don't go very far. You actually kind of go a certain distance and then get kicked back a little bit too. So, if you happen to uh, uncurl on just the right frame of the pound. So I'm going to try to do it here. That was a little bit early to start buffering. Alright, so I'm pressing A on this frame. So I buffered an A input on the first frame. You can see the sort of halo of the pound hitting the ground. You can see I go quite a bit farther than with the initial missile. And I don't get kicked back at all. And I stop, and then you have the sort of weird Goron missile putting away the hookshot effect. So, if you uncurl on the perfect frame, you get the maximum distance, even with a flat Goron missile, which in and of itself is pretty interesting, but when you couple that with the effect of voiding out in water, becomes even more interesting. So let's just void out in water here. Wanted to void out without coming down here, but that's okay. It's hard to go down or even up slopes when you have Goron Missile active. So when you void out in water, as some people know, although it's not used very often in any of the speedruns these days, I think I sometimes take advantage of it in all fairy rewards runs, in Great Bay Temple, but it's just generally not particularly well used. When you void out in water, you actually keep the Goron Missile effect even after uncurling, so you're just always in a Goron Missile state. So now, if we uncurl on the perfect frame, again, in this constant Goron Missile state, let's see what happens. That's a frame early. When you're a frame early, you just uncurl without actually Goron Missiling anywhere. And I set up the Goron Missile again, which is a mistake, because now I've ruined the Goron Missile always state. Let me void out in water again. This is the problem with these unscripted videos, but I just really didn't feel like doing multiple takes. So close to voiding out. Alright. Okay, let's try that again. Maybe if I'm not lazy, I'll edit this part out. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Trying to get on flat ground, because if you Goron Missile off a slope, like, you're still just going to get the normal Goron Missile off a slope effect. Or you're going to be in the air, and so you're not going to lose. I'm almost about to do that again, too. So, things that will get rid of a Goron Missile state, even when you have the water void out. Shielding, punching, both of those things will still get rid of the Goron Missile state. Hey, we actually did this for once, though. Alright, so we have our Goron Missile anywhere. We're not going to open the menu to switch items around or anything like that. We're just going to pound and release A on the perfect frame. Alright, so buffer the A input here. And off we go. And we just sort of slide around like this until eventually the friction catches up with us. So, Nerds with Game figured all this stuff out and thought of an interesting application, specifically if you water void out so you're still in the Goron Missile state when you uncurl. It's going to be too late. So, holding A here, doing nothing for this frame, then pressing A again to curl, and you can sort of chain Goron Missiles together like that. Let me get it where I get the pound frame as quickly as you can. So in 5 frames, I should be able to pound again. So if there was any more room to go, I would have continued to shoot off at high speeds. It's kind of hard to show this off because there's just not really a part of the map that you have enough room, where if you do it on the first frame possible, you're going to have any further to go. But you could theoretically keep chaining Goron Missiles together and increasing speed a little bit each time. Oh, so I was sort of on a slope there, so I couldn't get the third Goron Missile into the chain. But because I uncurled on the perfect frame again, I didn't get stopped against the wall like I did in those first two. So I gained a huge amount of backwards velocity from chaining these Goron Missiles together. So an interesting application for this would be if we could do this in boss rooms where we currently can't escape with Goron Missiles of speeds that we can achieve through normal means, like the Adolwa boss fight room, the Georg boss fight room, and the Twin Mold boss fight room. The only problem with that is that it requires you to have this state where you are always in the Goron Missile state in order for this to work. Like I showed you earlier, even when you uncurl on the perfect frame with a normal Goron Missile setup, you are always stopped. You go further if you uncurl on the perfect frame, but you are still always stopped at the end, and you can't possibly curl again and set up another missile. So, if there is some other way to be stuck in this Goron Missile state, then we potentially have found a faster missile, a fast enough missile to pick up boss remains in Adolwa, Georg, and Twin Mold and skip the Giants cutscenes. But for now, this is just sort of a cool little oddity with the Goron Missile. With that, I'm going to end this disaster of a video, and happy missiling.